George Clooney has Obama's phone number. I told you this. They hang out, okay? They text each other. George Clooney posting this is like, you know he hit up Obama before he did that. Okay, why are we talking about all this? Let's get to Brandon.
For President Biden, he has a lot to prove, and it may be an impossible.
Oh my God, I locked this. Oh my God, I called this yesterday. Oh my God. Oh my God. Scoop, Barack Obama and George Clooney were in touch before the actor wrote his brutal op-ed suggesting Biden was a diminished man who should step aside from the presidency. Obama did not encourage or advise him in the op-ed, but he did not try to dissuade him either. I told you, I said yesterday, George Jebediah Clooney is besties with Obama, okay? Did I not tell you this? I said this man writing this op-ed is damning, and not just because he's like a very important lifelong Democrat and a committed like fundraiser who rose $14.5 million in one night for Brandon a month or 2 weeks before he wrote this op-ed on the New York Times demanding he drop out. But he's also besties with Obama. I told you this. I said he's on a first name basis. He knows what Obama's last name is. George Clooney knows Obama's last name. George Clooney has Obama's phone number. Kaya, get back on their place. I told you this. They hang out, okay? They text each other. George Clooney posting this is like, you know he hit up Obama before he did that. And it's going to cause the Biden campaign to basically turn around and do this, which is on the docket. Don't worry, I have it right here. Regarding the growing criticism of Biden, the Clooney op-ed, etc., Morning Joe says,
I'll say one thing that we do have to underline here, just so viewers can follow what's going on behind the scenes, is the Biden campaign and many Democratic officials do believe that Barack Obama is quietly working behind the scenes to orchestrate this. I'll say one thing that.
Yeah, it's messed up, man.
Joe Biden is, and this.
Hold on. There we got more. Despite repeated White House denials of any Obama-Biden tension in the public bromance displays, Biden's friend Joe Scarborough says.
And this is the reality. Jonathan O'Meara, Joe Biden is deeply resentful of his treatment under not only the Obama staff, but also the way he was pushed aside for Hillary Clinton. He's deeply.
Another lock, another Hasanabi lock. This is something that I've also said verbatim. And unlike Joe, unlike Scarborough, I'm not besties with Joe Biden. But I told you this too. I told you this shit as well. I told you. There's a knife fight. You have the Clintonites and you have the Obama coalition inside of the Democratic Party. They've always been at odds with one another, obviously. They've always had tension. Obama won that tension, but Obama basically is the reason why Joe Biden didn't run in 2016. Joe Biden never forgave him for that because Hillary Clinton lost to Donald Trump. Obama then told all the other establishment Dems to step aside to make way for Joe Biden in 2020 to make up for that problem, even though that was also a miscalculation because Joe Brandon was too old in 2020. And now Obama can't do shit. Now, because he's a coward and an annoying coward who only cares about clout, who only cares about Hollywood shit, he's just sitting aside on the sidelines and he's watching democracy fall apart, okay? But having said that, that resentment has carried on. Joe Brandon is very upset with everybody else in the Democratic Party. He thinks that everybody in the Democratic Party is consistently undermining him, and that spite is what is keeping him in this position.
Resentful of those trying to shove him out of the way. He's always felt like an outsider, always felt like people have looked down upon.
Yeah, dude, I know. The outsider, the perennial outsider Joe Biden, who has been in office for 40 years, dude, for 50 years, who's been the vice president for 8, who's been the president for 4, classic outsider, okay? When I think of an outsider, I think of a guy who's, been a career politician. Bro, there's construction going on today, and they've gone crazy mode today. This is the first time I'm feeling like a NIMBY. Normally, I love construction. I'm like, great, build more housing. It's great. I'm a big fan. But today, they're going nutty mode. I don't know if you guys can pick it up on the microphone at all, but it feels like they're banging on drums outside of my window. It's the first time. It's crazy, right? It's so loud. Like, I've never, because like they've always had construction, but I've never heard it this loud ever. Anyway, well, it just stopped. They heard me. They were like, yo, my bad. Yeah. Oh my God. It literally stopped. What the no sound for us. Is AC working? My noise gate is crazy. Anyway.
Upon him. And that's why I said at the top of the show, and this is.
Construction workers probably love the Hasanabi broadcast. I doubt it. These are the two White House denials to me in just the past few months. The Biden and Obama families are like family to one another, and whomever made these claims about the relationship isn't familiar with it. As President Biden has said, President Obama is family to him. A lot of the current resentment and tension is coming from the Biden side, not the Obama one. 2015 hangover, legacy competition, etc. Here's my story from this March. President Biden doesn't speak frequently with Barack Obama, but behind closed doors, he talks about him a lot. Biden often measures himself against the man he served as vice president, current and former aides say. I get to tune in for 2.5 minutes in between meetings, Pog. We got Biden cabinet leaks. The last full cabinet meeting took place on October 2nd, 2023. One cabinet secretary tells CNN they are uncertain of Biden's condition because they so rarely see him. Oh, it's a knife fight. Oh, dude. Oh, my God. Oh, my Lord. This is not. Oh, my God. They haven't had a full cabinet meeting since October 7th. Okay, Kaya. Okay. Baby. Do you still think Biden will be the nominee? I don't know. I mean, I can't make this prediction, chat. I'm sorry. I genuinely don't know. I genuinely don't know. Like, everyone in the party is basically screaming for him to drop out. Like, and every sign is signaling that this is a person whose mental faculties have unironically diminished. Okay, in an unavoidable fashion, unlike the top of the hour, which you can avoid by subscribing for $6 now, as of today, inflation, Joe Brandon's economy, Joe Brandon's America, or for free with a Twitch Prime. Twitch Prime is still free. That's right. You can also get gifted a sub if you're lucky. He will still be the nominee. The polls are turning in his favor, even in swing states. AOC was low-key right in that this matter is closed. Wait, what? The polls are turning in his favor? What are you talking about? Do you mean the polls are turning in Trump's favor? Like, bro, check them. Have you seen any of the internal Democratic polling? He was down and now it's tied? What? Okay, please post the polls and, or the article that you read that gave you this cope. Not a Biden fan at all. I mean, this is the 538 aggregate, and this is like June 17th. They're pretty close. And then there's like a brief blip where Biden ekes out the edge. And then ever since then, Trump has just been trailing ahead. Where are you getting this from? I have not seen. I mean, maybe there's one poll. Maybe there's one poll that shows them tied or something. But every single poll I've seen, literally, whether it's individual polls, whether it's leaked internal polls, which are, in my opinion, more significant, because like that is what the Democratic Party is looking at when they're making those decisions. I don't know. It's just every single poll I've seen is showing them getting like absolutely destroyed. Having said that, I have mentioned in between the coverage, the seemingly endless coverage of the mania surrounding Joe Biden dropping out, I have said time and time again, it's still a close race. And while these polls represent a trend in the negative direction, it's still a close race. The problem is it's not supposed to be a close race because Trump is a uniquely and historically bad re-election candidate. Do you understand? You're part of the endless coverage talking about Brandon dropping out, homie lol. Yeah, of course. Why wouldn't I? I've been saying Joe Biden is bad for the Democratic Party, not just like bad across the board, not just bad from, where I'm standing, like my own personal convictions, my own morals, but just bad for the Democratic Party in general since 2019. So yeah, why wouldn't I why would I cease to cover it all of a sudden? Why would I just be like, hey, now that the media is playing catch up after they basically hid this truth for 4 years or didn't acknowledge it or refused to acknowledge it and even literally bullied people that even brought it up and claimed that they were being ableist and that it was just simply a stutter in 2019 as his mental faculties decayed over and over in broad daylight in more apparent ways until 50 million people watched his brain matter leak out of his goddamn ear on that debate stage. And it became this completely unavoidable reality that the media had to address. Why would I stop covering it then? Yeah, I'm not being a great chatter. Should have communicated better. I'm saying that they are reported as tied. Ipsos poll on MSNBC and crap. Not a Biden cope. I'm saying they're pushing him through. It seems by hyper-focusing on tied polls. No, that's ridiculous because a lot of the battleground state polling has moved away from leaning Dem to being a toss-up or being a toss-up to leaning Republican. Like it's not what you're saying is incorrect. And it makes total sense. It's not just his mental faculties. It's your fault, not on the front page of the New York Times. Yeah, I know. Some Biden advisors are discussing how to persuade him to step aside. Biden's campaign quietly tests Harris's chances versus Trump. In interviews over the past 2 years, President Biden has been asked nearly identical questions pre-screened by his staff. Should President Biden step aside or stay in? Here's what some prominent Democrats have said. I mean, you're delusional if you think that it's like, I'm doing this. Kaya, place. Come on, go. Place. Do polls even matter? Yes, dude. Of course polls matter. What are we talking about? Anyway. Yeah, I'm not gonna stop covering this issue, which is an issue that I have talked about for 4 years now. Kaya, place. Good girl. I've seen the most deranged brain rot from Biden dead enders on Twitter the past few days. Yeah, what's really funny about it is that they will all be just as excited, if not more excited, about any other person running. The Biden dead enders currently are just, I don't know, they just have some sense of loyalty to Brandon. And that is, I think, part of the reason why they're advocating. And maybe there's a level of fear that a last second switch up is going to cause the Democratic Party's chances to fall apart or something, right? I think that's basically where it's coming from. But all of those guys that are Biden dead enders right now, they're not Biden or busters because there's no there's no ideological fissure. There's no contradiction. There's no division between Biden and Kamala Harris. Those people are openly recognizing that they're voting for this cadaver and demonstrating their party loyalty because they'll vote for whoever isn't Trump. But a lot of other people don't work that way. And these guys don't understand it for some reason. Okay? They've been so primed and so conditioned from years and years and years of watching MSNBC, I think. They just are just going, vote blue no matter who, shut the fuck up. And you have to vote for Biden. And it's like, dude, there's still time to swap them out. I guess there's some fear that there would be a little bit of panic and confusion and chaos if this swap didn't happen swiftly. And that's a valid concern to have, but that's still on Biden. If Biden truly cared about the future of the Democratic Party and the future of democracy, right? If they genuinely believe that democracy is on the ballot, then Biden would swiftly step aside and do everything in his power to ensure that the replacement goes perfectly well, instead of slamming his feet onto the ground and saying, no, I'm stubborn. I'm staying here. I'm going to be here. I am not going to leave. Because, all right. Peace, boys. Also, for the record, this is a pretty good indication that the Republicans also recognize who's a better candidate to run against. Donald Trump fires back at George Clooney over Biden op-ed. He should get out of politics and go back to TV. Movies never really worked out. They don't want Biden to leave either, because they also recognize that, they're probably running their own polls against potential Democratic candidates, Democratic hopefuls, and what that looks like against Donald Trump, who is, like I said, a historically bad candidate. This is why I jokingly said there's a really funny reality where, like, Democrats do 25th Amendment, or was it 22nd? It's the 25th Amendment, right? Like when you, the 25th Amendment, and then the Republicans try and block it. Yeah, 25th. I joked about it, but like sometimes the things I joke about turn out to be a reality. Why is he a historically bad candidate? Oh, that's very simple. One, Americans really care about felony convictions. Americans are super draconian in their understanding of criminal justice. They literally are institution defenders. They're like, oh, you're a criminal, it's over. That's number one. Number two, Donald Trump is literally a genuinely incompetent person and a genuinely chaotic person. A lot of people still, despite their amnesia, remember the 4 years of Donald Trump and how they felt during that process and how that motivated them to vote for a cadaver the first time. Okay? So there's that. A lot of Americans care about civility. Donald Trump is very uncivil. Okay? Beyond that, so Joe Biden is that bad? He even now loses the polls? Yes, that is precisely the point I'm making. Thank you. That is exactly what I've been trying to explain to people, is that Donald Trump is a historically bad candidate. That's why the calls for Donald Trump to drop out from liberals who are trying to, hysterically defend Biden is so funny. It's like, yeah, drop out and what, put a better candidate in his place? That's ridiculous. So, ultimately, I think they recognize that Joe Biden is probably the best person to run against if you're a Republican, because he's very old. And that's a really, that's a really good way to also kind of neutralize Trump's age a little bit, because Trump looks significantly more coherent when next to Joe Biden, regardless of how many, David Pacman or Brian Tyler Cohen or, Midas Touch videos are out there about like Trump flubbing, because he flubs and he fibs. He flubs and he fibs. Okay. He is the covfefe man for sure. Donald Trump is. He definitely has his moments as well, but it doesn't matter. That doesn't get past anyone. That doesn't actually get people to pay attention to what he's saying. That doesn't really pass the smell test. People don't think like, oh yeah, when I'm looking at Joe Biden and I'm looking at Donald Trump, as 50 million people did in that debate stage, they can obviously tell that one person, Joe Biden, is in a significantly worse shape than Donald Trump. Trump's base doesn't care when he flubs, but all Biden voters freak the fuck out. That's not entirely correct either. What about the post-Dobbs bump? Yeah, that's another clear indication of Brandon's failure as a person running for re-election with the incumbent advantage. Do you not see that? We are living in the, Republicans are the anti-abortion party era, and yet Donald Trump is still winning. That's crazy. That is a genuine cause for concern. And yet people don't see it for some reason. Well, I think they do. They're just fearful. If I'm being as charitable as I possibly can be to the Democrats who are, Brandon dead enders at this point, who will, of course, very excitedly vote for whoever, if Brandon is replaced, whoever's replacing him, they'll get super stoked on that. But for the time being, they just don't want to rock the boat. I don't think, they're not Biden or busters, is what I'm saying. We see it as on. I'm not a dead ender, but who else with name recognition? I think that the name recognition conversation can be solved easily with the massive flow of cash and the marketing. Like, that's not a big issue. That is, if anything, an advantage. Lack of name recognition in this circumstance legitimately helps the Democratic Party. Why? Because, and I'm not talking about an outsider, I'm talking about an insider, just with not enough name recognition. Why does it help the Democrats? Because the Democratic Party's policies are popular. The Democratic Party, for the first time in a very long time, is more popular than the Republican Party. Generic Democrats and down ballot Democrats, until this Brandon stink, were outperforming Joe Biden by sometimes 10 points in the same key states that Biden has to win. And that is because the Republican Party is very unpopular. I mean, almost a year ago, there was a New York Times poll that showed a generic Democrat, no name, just generic Democrat, was outperforming Biden by 18 points. So at this stage, a lack of name recognition simply just means that's the admin person. That's the administrative candidate. You don't think it's too late then? No, of course I don't. No, absolutely not. I'm a Biden or buster. If Biden drops out, I will bust. There are obvious issues with whoever they put in Biden's place. The easiest swap out is, of course, going to be the easiest swap out would be Kamala Harris, of course. There are issues with Kamala Harris. She is also deeply uncharismatic and kind of incompetent, if we're being very real. The issue there would be, for Kamala Harris at least, the issue there would be that they could also make the argument that, like, well, she was the vice president. She knew, and she hid the secret from the Americans that the president was, like, mentally incapable. But ultimately, I think, regardless of that angle, I think that she could, with a competent team, get over that hump. The one instinct that she has had, that I have noticed that I thought was good, was for the past couple of months, she has been far more aggressive in calling for a ceasefire than the president. She has literally openly outflanked the president and also outflanked the president on leaks from her internal staffers that she will go and tell Politico, like, Kamala Harris behind closed doors is saying she wants a ceasefire now. Like, that kind of stuff is good. That means, like, there is at least someone around her that has smart instincts, good political instincts, that even if Biden wasn't to drop out, shows that, like, oh, this administration is actually at odds a little bit when it comes to Gaza. Like, see, the youth, maybe they could be with Kamala Harris if they're not with Joe Biden. Can't wait until Trump wins so that he purges America of commies and forces folks like you to emigrate to commie China, bitch. Kamala is Jew. She will side with Jew in the end. This is so, I mean, you're a Nazi, but I'm trying to also make sense of, like, your opinions, regardless of your like Nazi perspective. And it's just so strange to me because, like, can't wait until Trump wins so that he purges America of commies and forces folks like you to emigrate to commie China, bitch. First of all, that's awesome. Okay. But having said that, what do you mean Kamala is Jew? She will side with Jew in the end. Anyway, Donald Trump, like, the funniest part about these Nazis, her husband is Jewish. Yeah, I know. Douglas Emhoff is dummy. What does that have to do with anything? Like, what do you mean? Oh, man, Kamala Harris's husband is Jewish. Who cares? Calling me a dummy. Oh, okay. What does that mean, I wonder? Let's think. Well, Hasan, don't you know? Jews have only loyalty to Israel. Classic. Which is really funny to say that when you're also simultaneously pro-Trump, who in his 15-point plan literally made one of the 15 points, 1/15 of his agenda is deporting people who are mean to Israel. Nazis are so funny when they're like, yeah, I love Donald Trump. He's going to put America first. And also, if you're mean to Israel, he will deport you. Trump is the only guy who has been more pro-Israel than Biden, okay? The only reason why you don't recognize that probably is because Biden is currently president and he's doing a genocide. And a lot of people forget that, like, Trump's policies greatly pushed Israel's most reactionary components, most reactionary elements. Why do you call everyone you don't like a Nazi? This person thinks that Kamala Harris's Jewish husband somehow means something. Like, it just means that, like, Kamala Harris's husband is Jewish, so she's like going to be unconditionally pro-Israel at a time when I was literally talking about how Kamala Harris has been advocating for a ceasefire publicly and also privately, or at least leaking that she's privately advocating for a ceasefire, outflanking Biden on that front. So the idea that isolated case. Yeah, I think if you think that, like, someone being Jewish automatically implies that they have, like, dual loyalty to Israel, like, I'm going to suspect that you're a Nazi. And even you recognize that. So why are you chirping? Take an hour off. You take a full day off. Or not a full day. You get a permaban. Dumbass Canadian Nazi. That's good, right? Kamala's Jew husband will bring his money magic to the Democratic admin. I'm Korean, by the way. No. Okay. Bro, this motherfucker wasn't offended when you called him a Nazi, but dummy is what got under his skin. Yeah. Silencing political opponents. Casual liberal. Yes. We have great name Nazis again. The election season is so back. No, I know. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. I love political discourse. We are back in a big way. When the hogs start coming back, nature is unironically healing. Like, I get so excited. I thought you said Nazis are redeemable. No, I said Nazis need to be rehabilitated and re-educated. Having said that, however, that doesn't mean they can just, like, keep chirping and make this a less safe space or muck up the discourse that we're trying to do here. Like, what do you mean? Yeah, that doesn't mean... People think, like, oh, rehabilitation means, like, you get to just still chirp like a Nazi. No. I like that. That's, like, very 2016 era discourse, though. Why can't we allow Nazis to have a seat at the table? What's the course of action Democrats should take if Biden decides now or in the coming days to drop out? I mean, immediately look for a VP for Kamala Harris. Anyway. Okay, let's continue. Biden to hold news conference amid doubt over his reelection campaign. Let's get
That's
started.
where we're going to begin, not with the president tying his shoes, but with that very big press conference today for President Biden. He has a lot to prove, and it may be an impossible task. Doubters are wondering if he's up for this job. He's got a news conference later today that'll be his first solo appearance before the American press in months. And it comes as close allies, including actor and donor George Clooney, say it's time for him to drop this re-election campaign and allow another candidate to step forward. Nancy Cordes is at the White House. She is following all this. There is no oxygen for anything else this morning. Nancy, good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Tony. You know, the president has not had much time to prep for this first solo press conference since last November. He's been hosting.
Dude, I think gray names that come in here to say stuff like, oh, Goyim, like they write stuff like, oh, Democrats and Republicans like both would sacrifice Goyim for Israel. Like when you say stuff like that, do you think anyone reads that and goes, oh, that's a cool guy? Like, you should be really embarrassed to type shit like that out. Because as soon as I see you writing like 4chan green text like that, I assume you're the most 45-year-old, permanently single, living in the mommy's basement, constantly online IT specialist guy that I've ever encountered. Like, you are the epic narwhal bacons at midnight version of Nazism. You know what I mean? Like, you look down upon the 9gag boomers and the epic Reddit people, but you basically are the same person, but for Nazi shit. You know what I mean? It's just so sad. It's like the one group of people that's more sad than the 9gag guys who are like, oh, I'm soy facing about my epic Funko Pop collection. Like, you think you're above that, but you were literally doing that.
Hosting the NATO summit here in Washington, D.C. But even as he holds talks with foreign allies, some of his domestic allies are putting more pressure on him to rethink his decision to stay in the race.
May we continue to grow stronger and closer in all the years ahead.
President Biden unscripted yesterday in some of his favorite settings, interacting with world leaders and union leaders.
Middle class built this country. You built the middle class.
But he was dealt a new blow midday from lifelong Democrat and movie star George Clooney, who just hosted a $30 million fundraiser for Biden last month. In an op-ed, Clooney wrote, quote, "The Joe Biden I was with 3 weeks ago wasn't even the Joe Biden of 2020. He was the same man we all witnessed at the debate." Clooney wasn't the only one signaling fresh doubts. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi was asked if she still supports Biden's bid.
It's up to the president to decide if he is going to run. We're all encouraging him to make that decision because time.
Then why didn't he say that before? I mean, he saw it. He was worried about it. And then he turned around and said it after everyone saw it. Like, I think if George Clooney came out right after that interaction and wrote an op-ed, it wouldn't be as powerful as writing it after 50 million people saw it.
Time is running short.
The problem? Biden has already announced his decision to stay in the race.
Well, let me say this as clearly as I can. I'm staying in the race.
Virginia Senator Tim Kaine sounded a lot like Pelosi.
I have complete confidence that Joe Biden will do the patriotic thing for the country, and he's going to make that decision. He's never disappointed me.
Yeah, except he has made that decision. And it's so funny that, like, even the likes of Tim Kaine in the membrane, Tim Kaine in the brain, are just coping and basically trying to say, like, no, he's going to make a decision, I promise. It's like, but he has. Why do you keep saying he's going to make a different decision? It's because they don't want to say, you know, he needs to drop out. Like, they don't want to say openly that he needs to drop out immediately.
Late yesterday, Vermont's Peter Welch became the first Democratic senator to call on Biden to withdraw. Regular Vermonters are worried that he can't win this time, he wrote, and they're terrified of another Trump presidency. A trio of top Biden advisors is heading to the Hill today to try to reassure Senate Democrats. And CBS News has learned that House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries plans to convey the concerns of his members directly to the president.
We're continuing to have conversations with each other, and those have been candid, comprehensive, and clear.
I think people are also discounting, because you're in this community, you're probably discounting like how little people pay attention to politics in general, or how little people know, or how much people only focus on whatever the narrative is in the media. Even those who are in proximity to power are still watching like MSNBC and CNN and whatnot. And if MSNBC and CNN isn't constantly pushing the Biden is actually kind of old, isn't he, button, right? Like, if you're George Clooney, you probably are not super familiar with Biden's mental faculties diminishing, right? I think you forget how much you probably take for granted, like how much I've covered this for the past 4 years, how much Michael from Pennsylvania has covered this for the past 4 years, how much maybe even Majority Report or like Chapo, all of these other like independent outlets have like obviously seen and have like hammered that point over and over again. So you think like, oh, everybody understands it, and they're just like totally hiding the truth. Like, no, I do legitimately think that a lot of people are shocked. Oh, TYT as well. Thank you, Brooke. You're right. I can't believe I forgot Jank, who is like the most vindicated man in America. He literally was like, I'm running for president. I know I'm not going to win. It doesn't matter. I'm trying to, get Democrats to do the right thing. Did you ever figure out why Uba blocked you? Yeah, I did. It was because he had a blue check mark auto blocker. Not the people closest to him that have been actively hiding it. Yeah. And I think that leaks such as we haven't had a full cabinet meeting since October 2nd is also another indication that like his closest, most loyal allies have been sheltering him, not just from the public eye, because that's like, you can say that like that is Hawaiian shirt. Seriously? Yes. What is there an issue with that? You could say like, oh, they're just doing that because they want to improve his re-election chances like they did in 2020, right? Like they wheeled him out every now and then. All right. He was in the basement. That was like the meme. But this time it's even worse than that. I think they're also sheltering him from like, I think they're also basically sheltering him from like staffers and other members of his own cabinet. Does that make sense? That's what is going on. What is this? You called it. Prominent Democrats interviewed by CNN blame the president's inner circle for keeping. Yep, there you go. Keeping Biden away from unscripted settings and hiding his decline. Back in Washington, there have been clear signs throughout his term of the president being increasingly stage managed with lists of talking points, names of questioners, and drawings of where he should walk presented to him by aides. Ahead of closed-door cabinet meetings that Biden attends, it is customary for cabinet officials to submit questions and key talking points that they plan to present in front of Biden ahead of time to White House aides. Two sources with direct knowledge told CNN. The entire display is kind of an act. One of those sources told CNN they would come and say, hey, the president is going to call on you in about 25 minutes and ask this question. What are the bullet points you'll respond with? A second source who echoed that same description said when Biden attends cabinet meetings, they are not freewheeling and pretty well orchestrated. And the meetings themselves are infrequent, with one cabinet secretary telling CNN they are uncertain of Biden's condition because they so rarely see him. The last full cabinet meeting took place on October 2nd, 2023, 5 days before October 7th. They have not had a full cabinet meeting since October 2nd, 2023. Because the more cabinet meetings you have, full cabinet meetings you have, the more staffers you are in front of. The more staffers you are in front of, or the more like administration members you are in front of, the more people talk. So they're trying to keep it as airtight as possible, it seems. They're running the 2019-2020 strategy, but this time internally. Which is why seemingly his entire staff is speaking to journalists anonymously to ring the alarms. Lol. Yes. Explains to him saying he saw the 40 babies. I mean, that kind of stuff was also pretty insane. I brought that shit up post October 7. Biden would just come out in front of the press and be like, I saw 40 beheaded babies. And it was like, no one saw it. And his staffers would be like, we don't know where he got this from. He did not see 40 beheaded babies, right? Like, he would say shit like that. And I was like, he's crazy. He's out of his mind. He literally came out and was like, I don't believe that Hamas run health ministry numbers. Incredibly damaging to have a person running the show and having the bully pulpit when that person's mental faculties have declined. Because when the president says something, the president of the United States of America says something, that actually changes discourse, that changes the narrative, that changes the way people see things. You complain about him a lot, but offer no solutions. This is also the classic cope because, yes, I have offered solutions. It's called step the fuck aside. What do you mean? Like, this is classic copium from liberals who are, again, hysterically pointing at things and trying. Kamala Harris, it doesn't matter. It's just when I do offer solutions, you don't like the solutions that I'm offering. So you just say, no one is voting for her. Really? So you like Joseph Robinette Biden and you want to vote for him, but you're not going to vote for Kamala Harris. Is that what you're saying? Are you telling me right now that you are willing to vote for Joe Biden, but not Kamala Harris? who's the vice president of Joe Biden, by the way, which literally means that you voted for Kamala Harris automatically and are defending Kamala Harris by default, considering that the vice president's job is literally to step in and be the president if the president dies. So, like, you obviously already have voted for Kamala Harris, and you will vote for Kamala Harris again. No, I am saying that I want someone other than a Dem or a Republican. What? Okay, you're just delusional. Okay. What are they doing? Oh, this is from 2020. It looks like conservatives in the 1980s were right. We did all become goth socialists. They were just wrong about how it's actually extremely good. My face when I see Trump saying we're doing better on COVID-19 than anyone else. Europe much? Listening to third-party voters. Me looking at Kamala like, okay, mama, I see you. I'm feeling you. I'm voting for you, baby. That's back in 2020, baby. You offer no real solutions. Also, here's my completely unrealistic solutions. Yeah, no, that was awesome. That guy that said, I'm being unrealistic. That guy that said, I'm being unrealistic, just, you know, his position was, yeah, let's just have like some random guy, not a Republican or a Democrat. You're right, chatter. Let's do that. I too want to completely rewrite the you know, pretty calcified American political duopoly by just simply willing it to happen. Anyway. You're being unrealistic. Let's abolish the two-party system that has plagued our country for the last century. Yeah. I hate being unrealistic and being a and not being a based two-party abolisher. Why don't we just like destroy the Supreme Court and the Electoral College while we're at it? You know what I mean? You think I'm against that sort of thing? No, of course not. But if we're having like serious political commentary time, well, then it's a little bit different, don't you think? It's a little hard to wish cast the abolition of American bourgeois democracy. Let's continue.
All right.
A new national poll out this morning shows the race essentially unchanged from before the debate. And Biden aides insist that's what their internal polling shows as well, that Biden is still trailing slightly, but that the bottom has not fallen out the way that nervous Democrats fear it has. Tony?
That's sick, man. No, that's great. No, it's fine. You don't understand. It's not as bad as you think it is. I promise.
We have some breaking news of another Democrat joining the call for President Biden to step away from the race.
That's correct. Forgive me for looking down. I'm reading the article that just dropped. So in the Detroit News, obviously her local paper, West Michigan Democratic Congresswoman Hillary Scholten has now called on President Biden to step aside. That puts our current number at least 10. I'm also looking at a very critical tweet of President Biden from Congressman Richie Torres, who has kind of gone back and forth as to whether or not he believes the president should step aside. I don't necessarily see in this tweet that he calls on Biden to step aside, so I think Scholten is our latest. But point being is we do have a little bit of breaking news. We have one more House Democrat, at least one more House Democrat, who has now called on President Biden to step aside. So the total number is now 10 House Democrats at least, and then, of course, one senator who have now called on Biden to no longer be the Democratic nominee, Diane.
Mary Alice, how is the White House responding to this? Any sense of the conversations behind closed doors? How does the president recover from this, even if he is insistent on staying in the race?
For days, the White House and the campaign sort of worked hard to belittle and sort of downplay these sort of defections in the Democratic Party. They went as far, the campaign went as far as to sort of mock some of these House members as sort of no names and low ranking. That, of course, is getting harder with every additional one. You know, Michigan obviously stands out to me. The fact that Congresswoman is from Michigan. Michigan is a must-win state for President Biden. And the reality is we have seen these concerns from members just across the country and really across sort of the spectrum of the Democratic Party, some that are from safe seats, some that are from much more vulnerable seats. So it tells me that it's not just one type of Democrat, not just one sort of political predicament that is leading people to sort of make this call, make this judgment call. And of course, that's why it was such a big deal overnight when we saw the first U.S. senator to come out and also say that he thought the president should step aside. Obviously, the president was a senator for so long. He considers the Senate sort of his home, his stomping ground, his close colleagues. But also, obviously, each of those senators brings with them more gravitas, more of a role in fundraising for the party, running their own state Democratic parties. So if this trickle becomes a flood, that will continue to be something this White House will not be able to avoid.
All right, Mary Alice Parks, Jay O'Brien, Catherine Falders, thank you.
To keep talking about this, we're joined now by Chief Washington Correspondent Major Garrett. Major, good morning to you. You know, this George Clooney op-ed, I think the reason it's so damaging and worrying for the White House is we've all asked different members of the administration, what's the president like behind closed doors? And they say, oh, he's wonderful. Now you have George Clooney say, actually, no. And then you have a senator in Peter Welch saying it's time for him to go. Do you expect more defections from lawmakers in the party?
Tony, the short answer is yes. I was told by a senior member of the House Democratic Caucus last night that more and more members will come out today, followed by more and more members, Senate and House members, on Friday. That many had been waiting for the NATO summit to end, not wanting to appear to do anything to undercut.
Yeah. Here's why. By the way, it's such a laughable, again, it's such a baby thing, but here's a scoop from Politico senior Washington correspondent Rachel Bade. Speaker Pelosi has been advising frontline members to voice their district and do what they need to do for re-election, even if it means calling on Biden to step aside. Her one request, wait until NATO concludes out of respect for the office and Biden. It's literally like, it's like giving your dog that is about to die chocolate. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I'm going to give him all of his favorite treats, all of his favorite toys, and then we're going to put him down. Like, NATO is his thing. Let him do his thing. Let him play the role of an elder statesman one last time, and then we're going to put him down. We're going to put him out to pasture, which is crazy. For other safe seat members, yeah, that's a really dark thing to explain to you guys, especially because I've literally done that to fish. It's very sad. But that is what's going on with the president. For other safe seat members, she's encouraging them to take their desire for him to step aside straight to the White House or campaign to minimize party infighting. Lolly says Fish. Yeah, Fish was my former dog that passed away, my pit bull. For her part, Pelosi has told some people that Biden won't win and should step aside. Hey, come here. Come here. Come here. Hello. Hello, baby. Come here. No. She's mad at me because I'm trapping her in here today because I feel like the Aussie boys have spoiled her silly. Ma'am? 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 Hello? What is this? What is this? Anyway, ABC's reporting that guests of the White House noticed Biden's decline back in June before the debates. Yeah. Now, 2 out of the 3 Arizona Dem House members have now called Biden to step down. Yes, so that's what I was going to mention. Reports are coming in, but the reason why reports are coming in now, and there are more people coming out, is because of the Nancy Pelosi thing that I just showed you. Okay. Representative Ed Case of Hawaii becomes the 12th congressional Democrat to call for President Biden to exit the race. Greg Stanton of Arizona also calls for Biden to step aside as the candidate. There it is. History is unfolding in front of our eyes, ladies and gentlemen, and who knows what the Brandon administration will do. A PAC was created to help Dems that have come out early against / criticizing Biden, committed $2 million. A source told me a group of New York donors have committed $2 million to HMP, the House Dem Super PAC, to help Dems who came out early against / criticizing Biden. Angie Craig, Mary Glusenkamp Perez, Jared Golden, and Pat Ryan. Donors include Novo Gratz, Nancy and Andrew Jarecki, Gideon and Zoe Stein, and 30 plus other donors. Now, that's really interesting for those of you who maybe are not familiar with some of these people, but these are the problem solvers caucus, as in the most centrist, probably some of the worst members of the Democratic Party. Like, I hate them. Okay? The reason why they are doing this is partially because they're in contested seats. Okay? Why are people saying Gideon? Oh, because I said Gideon and Zoe Stein. Anyway, these are the people who are establishment Democrats through and through. Okay? That's why the progressives in the Democratic Party are staying away and letting the establishment Democrats run the table with their criticism, because this is their thing. Okay? Let's continue.
American president at a time of deliberations with allies, both in Europe and in Asia. But that time is passing very soon. I asked this member of Congress, well, what about the president's press conference today? He said it's not going to make any difference, at least not on the upside. Most members have come to the conclusion, he told me, that it is time for the president to step aside. That does not mean that's what's going to happen, but there will be more and more calls and more public pressure from elected Democrats in the House and Senate for him to do just that.
And Major, now we are learning that CBS News has learned that Biden aides are now making calls to delegates now. Is there an avenue even that delegates may defect ahead of the convention in August?
There is an avenue, but it is a narrow one, Natalie. Democratic National Committee rules do not require delegates to vote for President Biden for renomination. That's something that they changed after 1980. 1980 was the last time a Democratic convention was controlled by a delegate to nominee rule. You were bound to do that. Now the only Democratic National Committee rule is that you are supposed to reflect in good conscience the outcome of your state's caucus or primary. That aligns all these delegates very closely with President Biden. And delegates will decide the nomination process, not members of Congress. That's why the Biden campaign has been spending a lot more time calling those delegates, trying to nail down those commitments, and spending less time, let us say, having conversations and hand-holding sessions with members of the House and Senate. This will be determined by delegates. Now, if many members of Congress and even leadership of Congress on the Democratic side say, Mr. President, you've got to step aside, that could send a very strong signal to delegates in Chicago. They've got to go another way. But this is still very much in the president's side of the issue. He has the delegates, he's won the primaries, he's won the caucuses, and unless he decides to step aside.
Is there a reason a criminal isn't seeing such discussions of removal? Well, if you're a liberal, you should be celebrating that, I think. Considering that, like I mentioned time and time again today, I like PSL, then, go Claudia. Okay, got it. Oh, yeah, I forgot. It's Day Tuesday. The prominent PSL chirper in the chat.
It will be very difficult.
But yeah, the reason why they're not talking about it is because Donald Trump actually has a base of support and actually has Trump dead-enders who will not vote for someone else. Biden, on the other hand, does not have that. The Republican Party tried to knife Trump beforehand in the primary, and it didn't work. Partially because they put DeSantis up. And, nobody wanted that. So, New York Post, Biden's high-stakes big boy press conference delayed, so it might miss evening news broadcast. Wait, they delayed the press conference? If he's pushed out via delegates, that's much more damaging than having an open discussion over the next month, right? How is it good to discuss using the delegate option? The delegate option is the nuclear option. That's the problem. Oh, it's by an hour? So it's at 6:30. Okay. So it's still at 6:30. Got it. So the delegate option is the nuclear option. You understand? The best possible option is to have him step aside. The Democrats posted BRB making this our phone background. Oh, Jesus. They're saying Mamala. It was supposed to be at 5 p.m. EST, and it moved up to 6:30 EST, which is 3:30 PST. So we'll be hearing from Brandoni in his big boy press conference in a couple hours. I love the guy I love the gray name in the chat who is currently defending RFK Jr., holding on for dear life. Here, let's see what Mamala had to say recently.
We simply know we cannot count on Donald Trump to help keep America and Americans safe, not here at home and not on the world stage. And yes, I am also talking then about national security. This week, our president, Joe Biden, is hosting more than 30 global leaders in Washington, D.C. for the NATO summit. Now, NATO is the greatest military alliance the world has ever known. And thanks to our president, Joe Biden, if there is one single person who deserves credit in the world for strengthening NATO, making it stronger, making it more united and...
This is classic Democratic Party, like, ineptitude. This is classic Democratic Party ineptitude in the sense that, like, obviously it's NATO time right now. So, like, they're talking about it. I really, really hope that they don't run with this as their, like, main talking point. Okay? I really, really, really hope that they're not just like, you know, vote for us, whoever the candidate is, whether it's Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or whoever it is, because we're the NATO party. Oh my God. This is like, I'm so hyper focused on Joe Biden dropping out that I forget to talk about like regular Democratic incompetence. This is regular Democratic Party incompetence. Okay. Another Hasanabi lock from way, 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 way back. This is something that I've been talking about, something I talked about like 2 years ago. Where I was like, I really hope that when re-election comes around, they don't just like run with, we are the party that's funding the Ukrainian defense, because Americans will not care about it. Americans don't care about it now, as I said 2 years ago, and they do not care. They will not care about it at all. It will be something that they're negatively polarized against, as a matter of fact. Oh no. It's just like, this is for all of the, NATO defenders in the chat. Before you get mad at me and say like, oh, you love Vladimir Putin. I'm not even talking about that. Okay. I don't, but I'm not talking about that right now. I'm talking about using this as a way to win re-election in the United States of America is not a successful strategy. You will never outflank the Republicans on militarism and patriotism to begin with, regardless. And you will certainly not do it by talking about like the technocratic, the bureaucratic, technocratic elements of like America's global military dominance in the most boring, nerdy ways possible. Okay? It's just not going to happen. Americans don't even care about that shit to begin with.
And more effective, that is Joe Biden. That is Joe Biden. And having made it more effective, then together with our allies around the globe, we are standing up to the dictator Putin. All to ensure America is strong and Americans are safe. On the other hand, do watch, because it's not new. On the other hand, watch as Donald Trump has embraced Putin. Watch that. It's not just happening today, it's been happening. As he, Trump, threatened to abandon NATO and encouraged Putin to invade our allies. He even said Russia can, and I'm going to quote him now, and forgive the use of the word, but he said, quote, Russia can, quote, do whatever the hell they want. And he wants to be the President of the United States?
Yo, they need to take her off. They need to take her off the benzos and just give her some coke or something. She needs to be on uppers pronto. I want to see what that would look like. Obviously, right now, you look at what she's doing, you look at her performance and you go, oh my God, she's so much better than Joe Biden. And while that is absolutely true, okay, you have blinders on due to how bad Joe Biden is. Okay? This is not enough. She needs to be a little bit more charismatic. Mamala needs to get off the downers and get on some uppers pronto. I think that's probably her biggest weakness. She got no aura. She's missing the charisma key. Yes. I am a firm, committed believer in the 13 keys, almost as committed as I am to serving a 3-minute ad break at the top of the hour. And one of the keys is obviously lack of charisma or having charisma, and she definitely misses the charisma key. Here's a key for you. A 3-minute ad break at the top of the hour. If you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe, which you could do for $6 now that it's Joe Brandon's America and the Joe Brandon economy. Inflation has struck Twitch. $6 or for free with a Twitch Prime. Twitch Prime is still free, all things considered. You can also get gifted a sub if you are lucky. Here is the 3-minute ad break now. Coming to you. Yeah, 14th key on the 13 keys, having a sub to the Hasanabi broadcast.
And understand, as Trump bows down to dictators, he makes America weak. And that is disqualifying for someone who wants to be commander-in-chief of the United States of America. That is disqualifying.
Her cadence is so fake. Yeah, she reads really bad. I think like she reads very phony. Do you already have plans to have your plane? Do you already have your plane to flee when Project 2025 becomes a thing? Project 2025 is already a thing. And considering that I'm here 10 toes down, you know, I'm planted. I'm firm. It's happening. Another Kamala clip.
They taught us that we could do anything and should never be burdened by the limitations of other people to be able or not be able to see what can be. And this is that community who understands and can see what is possible unburdened by what has been. They taught.
Oh, please don't. Oh my God. I'm worried that the coconut memes are getting in her staffers' ears and they're just like letting her freak flag fly a little bit. No, in 2020, during the primaries, Kamala Harris had this like Democratic Party method that she would routinely demonstrate that I absolutely despise and made fun of her for quite frequently, which is the classic word salad of saying so many things while not saying anything at all. Okay? And I despise that. She would be like, we are looking into thinking of ways of potentially coming to terms with a new reality that we will bring about. I just said a whole bunch of shit, but I didn't actually say anything at all. Hillary Clinton used to do this as well. Many Democrats do this as well, where they're just like trying to run out the word count, trying to max out the word count, trying to sound profound when not saying anything at all. I think that especially when you're running against someone like Donald Trump, who is so straight to the chase that he will just straight up be like, yeah, immigrants are rapists, dog. We got to kill them. Sometimes that kind of rhetoric ends up negatively polarizing a lot of people against you, but it's really good for your own base of support. You cannot do, yeah, Jordan Peterson's a great example. You can't do this like Jordan Peterson shit, okay? You can't do this like word salad shit. Did you just link me a Jimmy Dore show clip? You're on crack cocaine, brother. I'm sorry. Biden picks Harris as his running mate. There you go. You know, okay, here's a hyper woke rad lib take. Are you ready for this? Don't you think it's kind of misogynistic to like toy around with women's feelings this way? One, only portray them as a simple prop for your political goals. And then secondly, to just like parade them around exclusively so you can get some additional marketing around the ultimate inevitable pick. Like, what is this, The Bachelor, dude? I don't know, man. Kind of misogynistic to me, dude. Sounds similar to Pepega affirmative action is racist. I mean, this is literally what Joe Biden did as far as like what went into his choices of who he was going to make the VP is literally the racist depiction of affirmative action. And that's not just me who thinks this. It was a joke even in like black Twitter. Isn't it fucked up to pick a cop VP while people are protesting police? I guess. I don't know. I mean, they're gonna continue with she was a progressive DA meta, so it doesn't matter. All right, I guess it's time to follow Biden. What's your overall opinions of Kamala Harris herself? I think that she is, again, a political operative, just as all of these people that are successful within the Democratic Party are. She is at least more progressive presenting on a multitude of issues than a lot of the other people who don't even hide that, or who don't even make that effort. Especially as someone from California, I think that we could go way further, way more blue in a state like California. But she's certainly more progressive than Dianne Feinstein and Nancy Pelosi. So at least there's that. Was it really that fucked up about Biden? He announced that he would select a black female VP for diversity since he's a white man. And there are just so few prominent black female politicians that speculations ran rampant. First of all, do you not understand how the VP process works? I was memeing about the Bachelorette shit or the Bachelor shit, but like, what the fuck are you talking about? The entire VP process and the selection is all about fanfare and theatrics. They leaked information about who it could potentially be so that people would speculate over and over again, so that there was more attention when the time came. That's literally the most significant purpose of the VP choice. Is it a good move to pick someone from Cali instead of someone from more swing state like Georgia? Yeah, that's the other thing I was going to say. I don't think VP sway one way or the other. There are obviously notable exceptions to that rule, but it literally doesn't matter. All the shit that I said about Kamala Harris still remains true. Kamala Harris, white or minority/black, asking as a Northern Norwegian. No, she's Asian and black, right? Like, isn't she Indian and black? I mean, I don't really give a shit what the fuck she is. It's always good when Democrats, like, it doesn't matter either way, okay? I just want to, once again, point out that this does not matter, okay? It does not matter. I need to stress this over and over again. It does not matter. But now that I've said that it does not matter, I would like to show you exactly how hilarious it is that the Democratic Party first locked themselves into a weird situation where they were like, it's going to be a black woman. Okay? So that was like bingo number one. Why the fuck would you say that? Two, and for reasons that I'm recycling content because you have none. Yeah, I know. Or because like it's been 4 years and I was right back then and I'm right now. And I could just hang it up. I could just hang it up and hit the old notes over and over again and just recycle the same content. If you look back at any of my commentary from like 2016, 2017, 2018, in terms of like abortion, gun control, Black Lives Matter, what the Democratic Party consistently does in terms of its ineptitude in dealing with the Republicans, and how surprisingly apt they are at being a massive hurdle to any sort of like leftist momentum within the party. All of that is, is exactly the same. It's basically, is the end of the season recap. This is something I tell people who think you're a grifter. I just show them your identical content from 8 to 10 years ago. Yeah.